Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for watching today. Our guest is Ellen Red, and we're very glad you're here, Ellen.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for having me.
you're very welcome. And Raimi, thanks for being here too. And
Hello.
Jessica had to work, so she couldn't join us today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Ellen. Ellen Red is an internationally known psychic medium, having worked with thousands of people around the earth. She's a spiritual teacher, lecturer, and writer, twin flame and ascension guide, and a shamanic healer, shadow work healer, and clairvoyant. She has had multiple near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. She offers a variety of readings, including twin flame and Akashic records. She also offers an angel anatomy workshop where you can learn to work with your 15 chakra system to rebalance your angelic template and retrieve your spiritual power. And her contact information will show in the description there. So Ellen, again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love to know more about you and how you got into the work that you do and things. If you want to tell us however much you want to tell us.
Well, thank you. I guess the fastest way to say it is that I was born into it, obviously. I started off as a very young psychic child. I remember being psychic even at 2 years old. And so as early as I can remember, I was quite aware of my galactic guides that I had. And then, of course, I had near-death experience at age 4. And then I went into a lot of SRA as a child and was an MK Ultra sex slave victim.
Oh, wow.
I had a polarized kind of upbringing where I had a lot of really profound spiritual experiences and also a lot of extreme trauma. And so it really catapulted me in my spiritual path. And that's how I was born into it. So as I understand, it was, I've been here many, many timelines before as an indigo soul. And so I have remembrance of that now, but in my childhood, I didn't, so, so it took a lot to kind of work through all the early childhood stuff. And then once I fully activated all of my DNA, that really pushed me out there. And so, you probably hear me talk a lot about how our DNA has been, compromised over the hundreds of thousands of years, and that we can etherically heal that through spiritual work. And so I had my DNA activated back into 12 and 24 strands. I say 12 and 24 because it was a 2-part upgrade.
So could you tell me, that's so interesting, what type of work or energy work or whatever did you have to activate your DNA? And specifically, because I'm guessing it can be done in many ways, like say in biofield tuning, I know we change our DNA because we're changing the energy patterns within our biofields and our bodies. Which modality or combination thereof did
Well,
you
it won't fully activate until you go through enlightenment, of course, but there's lots of modalities that you can use in the process. And so that can be anything from therapy to hugging a cat to talking to a best friend to hugging trees to energy work to psychological therapy. I mean, there's a wide variety of ways to work through trauma and but it's more than just trauma healing. It has to do with soul retrieval. And everybody on the planet right now has great need to do more soul retrieval.
Yes.
More. The most advanced people I know need to do more.
I think I would totally agree. I know I feel it. I douse before sessions, and one of the things I douse for is soul retrieval, and it's so strong. Sometimes there's in sessions there are individual pockets that need specific clearing, and then others can clear with the just from dousing. on a daily basis type of thing. There's more and more clear, but yeah, it's amazing how, there's just like pockets in the biofield. There's no end.
Well, you got to figure out where's your DNA. Where is it? Where is all that fragmented DNA at? Where's all those pieces of you?
And how do you find that? Where they're
soul
at?
work, soul searching, and
Okay.
soul work.
Okay. Interesting. Oh,
I didn't know if you're asking me another question.
yeah, Rainey, you're muted, dear. There, we didn't hear you. There you go.
There.
I would imagine it covers several lifetimes.
Soul retrieval, absolutely. It covers several lifetimes, and it covers previous incarnations in other planetary systems also.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. So is it more than one session, more than 1 hour?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because
people want it just like that. Yeah,
they just want to hurry up and buy a session and be all better, right? And that is just not, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just not the way that soul work works, because again, we are retrieving past lifetimes of ourselves. And so I had a client the other day that I worked with in a mediumship reading, and she is dealing with a lot of negative entities, and she is extremely infected. And sometimes if somebody comes in, I can do a clearing in one session, and we can kind of move them through it, and they're pretty good. Sometimes we clear it and it's great. But other times, depending on the person, it can be extremely challenging, and there's a lot of work that's needed for that soul so that they're not hosting entities anymore. And so they come and they want a session, and they don't understand why they're still being inflicted afterwards. Well, because you have a lot going on there, and one session's not going to cut it. And it's very unrealistic for humans to think that they can just go to a grocery store and buy some quick entity healing. It doesn't really work that way. And especially soul retrieval and connecting to all of your DNA and retrieving all that stuff from past timelines and galactic lives. No way are you going to get that in one session. Sorry. But we can certainly quantumly heal you and quantumly get you there in a way that can save lifetimes. Because we're talking about multiple lifetimes here, and we can quickly get you through that if you're willing to put the work into working towards your own soul.
Yeah, and I do hypnosis, and don't you think? I think that sometimes it's just carried on every single lifetime. Who knows how long it's been? How many lifetimes passed, and it's the same theme. And
if they're not getting the soul lesson,
right. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So how did your near-death experience, well, if you could tell us more about that, or you said you have more than one?
Yeah, I've had more than one, believe it or not. So I had a very extremely busy life. By the time I was 21 and I would tell people my stories, they would look at me like, how in the world could that? You're like a kid. And I was, I got put through the fast track of ascension. And so from the time I was born until I was in my 30s, which is when I went through enlightenment, I had a very, very, very active life, ups, downs, ins, outs. I traveled the world. I did all kinds of things, and I did have multiple death experiences. My first one, I was 4, and I drowned in a swimming pool. I always tell this, so everybody that follows me has heard this story 1,000 times, but it was, such a pivotal year for me because I fully crossed over and I went through the tunnel and all those things. I was introduced to angels. I met all of my ancestors on the other side. I had memory of them, even though I didn't recognize them all. But I was very much prepared in that moment where I was being shown by them what my life story was like, what it was going to be like for me in my life, and what I was here to do. And I was shown things that were absolutely in alignment with the heavenly world. So when I came back, because I was resuscitated by a lifeguard, when I came back, I was in a religious family, and I just thought, what you guys are doing doesn't make sense to what I just saw. It wasn't correlating, and I'm only 4. So it really created a lot of turmoil for me internally.
Mhm.
But I just knew what I knew. Once you get a profound spiritual experience like that, it impresses you on a soul level. So it's not coming from the mind. You're not thinking that you experienced it. You know it because it's a part of your soul. And so for me, that was my compass right from the beginning. Although I had a very challenging childhood. And so I struggled a lot with that too, because I was so entrenched into satanic programs as a child abuse victim that it was hard for me to hold on to the light that I knew I had seen, and I was 4. So I had a long journey ahead, but I also had extreme, profound guides all along, and also had extreme spiritual phenomenon that occurred throughout my life that kept me quite on track. And again, I was highly psychic too. So I was seeing, I met my grandmother, who I had never met in the physical world, but she came and visited me, and I knew that it was her. I knew who she was. And, I saw a lot of dead people, of course. And as a child, that terrorized me because I didn't have anybody to explain to me what was going on psychically. So I was being visited by all these passed over people, and if you are ever able to do that, you see how they died. So you're seeing all these mangled parts on them and things that are showing up, and it was very difficult for me to interpret and understand, and there wasn't anybody for me to talk to that could explain what I was experiencing. So a lot of times I felt like I was just crazy because I had a mom that was institutionalized, which of course they do to the light bearers and things like that. So for me, it was, pretty scary to even talk about what I was experiencing. But over time, I was very clearly shown that I was given a gift and I was meant to use it to help humanity with.
So your mom is very psychic also? Is that what you meant from being in the
No.
psychic? Okay.
No, she was just institutionalized, and they loved institutionalized people who were in tune with their spirit.
Right.
And so because I was in tune with my spirit, I figured that they would try to say that I was crazy also.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned MK Ultra, and when did you become aware of that in your life? Or how old were you?
Well,
You were
when
an abuse.
did I
You said,
become aware that I was in MK Ultra, or when did I become aware that I was being sexually abused? Because
well,
sex abuse is part of an MK Ultra program.
sure.
So, that was my life. I didn't realize that I was being put in that program through dark forces who definitely track our bloodlines and definitely knew who I was from the soul world until I was awakened, and Source showed me that.
Yeah. So how old were you when you found that out? Or when,
I
like
was
you
in
said,
my 30s. I was in my 30s.
okay. Yeah.
And I had spent 15 years in therapy and really got nowhere with therapy, trying to heal myself because I had been abused all my life. So by the time I was 14, I just started taking myself to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to therapy for about 15 years. I didn't really get any resolutions too much. I mean, I was addicted to it for a while because it was the closest thing I could get to healing at that
Right.
time.
Right.
But later on, a few years later, in my 30s, I went through enlightenment, and that's where I was shown how my consciousness was fragmented and who was behind it and what was going on spiritually and all the other aspects. And of course, that led me down the rabbit hole of really understanding the world we live in and who's
Right.
running it.
Right. So, when did you were able to get out of that MK Ultra thing? And did you have problems? Like, were they? I mean, I don't mean. I mean, of course, you'd have lasting, mental health and spiritual health issues because of it. But was your life in danger because you were trying to get out of it, or did you have help? Or?
Well, my life was always in danger,
Um,
and it was always in danger, and probably still is in some ways. I think that that's one of the things people don't understand is that, believe it or not, there are 3-letter agencies who have spent billions of dollars researching people like me,
yes,
and
I do.
they do track us, and they do, and there are targeted individuals, and there are beings that are being manipulated through sonar waves and other types of technologies to prevent them from being able to access the higher consciousness that some of us are accessing and bringing forth. And just as with the censorship issues that we're dealing with, it's all for the same reasons. The CIA and other agencies have sought to understand what it is that psychics know. And that's why every single kind of technology that we have on the planet today is a planet that is mimicking psychic abilities. And so on one hand, they want to get that knowledge from us. And on the other hand, they want to kind of shut us up. It's sort of like what they do with the medical industry. They want to mimic nature and take nature's natural way of healing people from every single herb. And they want to create a false medicine that mimics nature. And so they're taking the psychic abilities and they're mimicking nature, because psychic abilities are our natural design. It's just everybody's psychic to some level or not. It's just that some of us just happen to be really, really good at it, and a lot of times those are the most traumatized souls that became psychic or more psychic because they got broke open.
Right.
And so that's kind of the deal. But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Wow. Do you mind talking more about the MK Ultra? Or I don't know. I don't want to push you if that's a bad place for you, but it's just
I'm
fascinating to me how you came out of it, and how and things.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. What's your understanding of it? I want to get where you're at so I can try to help illuminate the other side of that.
Okay. Well, I guess I've heard a lot, and I know a lot of the listeners have too, about how you're trained and things in different ways, so we know it happens, and we know it's not good for the people, that you're stuck in that, and it's harmful to your life, and it has great ramification on the rest of your life, and you're made to do things you don't want to do. And so it's totally against the mindset of God, right? The mindset of spirit. And but I haven't
delved into it too much.
I haven't, as far as a lot of details and things.
What about you, Rami? What's your understand? I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to see what Rami's background is on it. And you're muted now too. But I just want to see what your understanding is so I can kind of try to take both of them and bring it together.
My understanding is it's a control issue. It's a sexual issue. It's a power issue. I feel so bad for both parties, because you have this person that maybe they know what they're doing, but are they driven to do it? Is it in...
Oh, you're talking about sexual abuse? I was talking about MK Ultra. What your understanding of MK Ultra is?
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know what MK Ultra.
Oh, okay. So that's good. Then that way I can kind of try to help illuminate it for you guys, because it is something that is going to sound really complex to your audience, because it's something that is complex. MK Ultra is essentially and it's not just one type of a mind control program. It's a massive network of mind control programs that are infiltrated into society that are used against specific groups. So they can target bloodlines just like they do with certain types of medicines, right? They can target bloodlines with certain types of sonar frequencies. They can target certain souls based on certain types of music and certain types of vibrational frequencies. They have this down to an absolute art. And so MK Ultra programs are everything from sex slave programs to your gangsters or your gangs that are in the streets is a form of MK Ultra program. You have the hip hop community. That's a form of MK Ultra program. Okay, that's on the surface level. Now it gets deeper and seedier and webbier when you get into the roots of everything that's going on behind the scenes. But ultimately, they know how to manipulate specific groups of people with certain programs. These are mind control programs that are used through media, television, radio, society, schools, churches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, behind the scenes, there's very advanced level architects of chaos, if you will, monsters of chaos, if you will, and keymen who work for dark groups of beings that function within the underbelly of our government systems and our churches and our schools and everything else. Now, that doesn't mean that every single government employee is a bad guy that's doing bad things. It just means that they work in the underbelly of that, and they function as if they're one of them, but they're actually running they're running a dark government underneath the official government, if you will. And MK Ultra, if you research it, because there is discussions about it on Google even, which goes to tell you there's been a lot of people fighting to explain what's going on, because and so they've actually even got Bill Clinton once to apologize for using MK Ultra on people. There's a video out there where he apologized about it, because the government has absolutely been using MK Ultra on people, and they do the same thing with drugs, right? They put the drugs into society and they get everybody hooked on them, and then they come in and they say they're going to do a war on them, but they're trapping those souls in between, and they're targeting specific people at the same time. So in short, that's kind of what MK Ultra programs are. Now, again, there's lots of different types of programs. So for the ones that are going after the children, the sex slave stuff, they're specifically targeting certain types of souls, and they're also all really trying to interfere with twin flame unions.
Yeah, anything positive.
What's that?
Anything positive.
Anything for me?
No, the controllers.
Trying to interfere with anything.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they are. They are trying to stop the light from coming in and being able to illuminate everything that they're doing. And of course, they're highly aggressive about it now. And you're seeing that even with the Diddy thing that's happening. Diddy getting exposed is just kind of like, he's still a chump at the bottom of the barrel of those guys. You know, there's so much more to expose. And so he's just the fish they threw out to the public, you know.
Right.
That should scare everybody, because that's being exposed with him is bad enough. But see, he was also an MK Ultra handler. And when you start to understand MK Ultra, you'll see he was a handler who was basically bringing people in, capturing them in their program, ensnaring them, tangling them up, getting them to sell their souls, et cetera, et cetera. Some of them were abusing people, and there were victims and there were perpetrators, but it's all an MK Ultra program. A big MK Ultra handler right now is Andrew Tate, and he's also pushing, if you guys don't know who he is, he became very wealthy by exploiting young women and doing OnlyFans and basically pimping them.
Mhm.
And everybody thought he was some great guy, and he's out there talking about the right, and he's pushing for Trump and all these things, but he's a complete MK Ultra handler. He's a puppet to the system, and not a very good one either.
Would you think that Jeffrey Epstein was?
He was definitely a handler, and he was a Mossad agent, so absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was a
and
little higher level.
yeah, they say that they're not going to release Diddy because he's in danger of his life if they let him go. Do you believe
They're
that?
not going to release him because they're probably going to Epstein him. They don't want to. Why would they release him anyways? The charges that he has
Right.
should keep him
Mhm.
there for life.
Right.
But I think that they're obviously very terrified that he's going to tell, because he has also, just like Epstein, he basically did the same thing Epstein did. He got blackmail on everybody.
Mhm.
Of course they're terrified of him. And I highly doubt that he'll live very long.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. It sounds like.
I mean,
So, yeah.
So
for
when
sure.
you got out of it, is because you got enlightened, and what?
I wouldn't exactly say it like that. I would say it like I was fighting for my soul all along, and I was resisting things on a soul level from early childhood. I just hadn't fully understood it all. I was feeling and experiencing things and fighting for my freedom. I was resisting being in the sex slave programs. I was trafficked as a child, and I was molested by multiple parties. But by the time I was in my 20s, I definitely had already fought to get away from that. I would say even teenage years that I was able to get free from that for the most part.
Do you feel
It's very
safe?
complex. Do I feel safe? I'm protected by source everywhere I go. I'm always safe, and there's nothing they can really do to me. I've died 1,000 times. I'm not afraid of death, and I'm not afraid of them. But I also realize that they do run the system in many ways, and so if they really want to torture those beings in the light, they certainly can take our finances from us, imprison us, and do all those things to us, because they're running the system. But that doesn't really have power over me. My soul is free.
Right. So, yeah, it's such a deep subject and so wide, like you said, encompassing so many different avenues of life that the majority of people have no idea.
That's the thing.
Underlies it.
To talk to people about it, and they think that you're crazy because you start sounding like a conspiracy theorist, because they don't realize that there is a conspiracy. There are groups of conspiring people who are working together in a dark network, and this is the actual facts. And so you sound loony when you try to tell it to them, but we're proving it. And really, everything that I was saying 20 years ago that everyone mocked me for is starting to unfold today. And I'm really glad to see that happening, because twin flames, people thought I was a complete Looney Tune because I was talking about having telepathy with my soulmate. Nobody really was talking about twin flames 20 years ago. Now it's a big common subject. Nobody was talking about reptilians except David Icke, and thank goodness for him. But there aren't that many people that were out there talking about these things. And so for those of us that have experienced it, it took a lot to be able to come forth and talk about it in a way where I don't really care what people think about me, but I'm glad that there's enough of us now that I can be more embraced than when I first came out.
Sure, because it's hard enough, even like you said, beginning to wake up to what really is going on in the world around you without even knowing the depth of it is. But then it's like, you're shunned by your family. That's so common for many of us. It's right. No one talks about it. No one, they don't want to hear. They don't. Yeah. It's like you're separated. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back Raimi really quick, because I was going to say that because she asked a question, is when I awakened is when I came out of the MK Ultra, and what I was trying to explain is that I started to go through processes along the way. And this is another reason why clients and those that are trying to go through these processes and heal themselves should understand there's never a fast way to heal. There can be. You can have one perfect prayer and get immediate healing from source. But you're also always going to have the other side of that where you're consistently working on continued healing and continued evolution. We're always evolving, and evolving means that we're going through deeper layers of healing. And this is really what quantum healing is that we're healing on deeper and deeper and deeper layers of ourselves. And so for me, I was going through tons of processes really since the time I was a child. I had my guides already told me at age 4 that I didn't have anybody in my family that I could count on for protection or even support. If I was hungry, I had to figure out how to get food. If I didn't feel safe, I had to figure out how to find a hiding spot. There wasn't anybody that I could count on. And that had played out in my schools and in my, multiple schools with multiple teachers. I have other videos that people can watch on my YouTube channel where I've talked about this extensively. Some of my childhood where, I had teachers trying to turn me into coke whores. My 9th grade teacher, Mr. Garcia. And I had neighbors that were molesting me, and I had nowhere safe to go. And so for me, I was always I felt for a long time that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't fully awakened yet. I knew I was psychic, but I wasn't awakened. And so I thought, I must be a bad person that all these things are happening to me. And so I put myself in therapy to fix myself. Because isn't that what an empath does, is blame themselves for everything that everybody else is doing?
And they've done that. Yeah.
All the time.
So I was pretty sure that I was the bad guy. And I spent a lot of years trying to heal the bad guy. And it took a long time to break through. And so I do give my therapist credit for this part, is that she had to gently work with me on that over a lot of years to try to help me understand that it wasn't my fault. And that took a long time to break that programming, because that was deeply programmed into me through religious and and society and schools and the fact that I was repeatedly molested. So I kept getting repeat messages. And so, and of course, when I went to my family, my dad blamed me. He spanked me and sent me to my room when I was 4 years old for getting molested. And so I got, the wrong idea from the beginning that I was a bad person. So all that work led me up to it. And then, of course, life's journey. I went through domestic violence. I went through single parenting. I put myself through college. I did all these other things. And by the time I was 30s, I had lived 6 lifetimes or 10 lifetimes. And I went through some more evolution. And then I had a full-blown Kundalini activation. I merged with my twin flame in the 12th dimension. I went back to source. I left the planet. I basically died. And I was given the choice to come back to Earth after I was shown the whole story of humanity. So,
yeah.
Wow. Could you tell us more of the story of humanity that you saw?
Well, it's a big story.
It is.
I will just say that Star Wars is real. Star Trek is real. The galactic wars are very, very real. There are lots and lots and lots of other types of beings and other realities outside of this one that very much influence this one. Humans have been extremely manipulated, and in general, they tend to fall prey to living in the reptilian mindset. So they basically work for demons, even if they don't mean to. A lot of them, many of them, many of them. And a lot of times they don't intend to. So they're also losing their spirit in that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hijacking going on, and there's a lot of timelines where angels, angelic beings, angelic humanity are the ones that have come in with all the extra DNA, that we've come in other timelines to try to help humanity multiple times before. And this time we're in another activation cycle where we've come in droves so that we don't fail this ascension portal, because it's been failed twice.
Okay.
And there is bright light at the end of the tunnel, which is that at the end, light does win. But in order for that to happen, we all have to kind of put our hands on deck and step into our roles. At least a certain portion of humanity does.
Right.
And so this particular ascension cycle is a big deal, a very big deal for humanity. And that's why so many souls are coming in, and they're getting galactic upgrades. They're getting twin flame initiations and all kinds of other experiences that are going to start coming online for people.
Yeah, I believe
I
that.
am here with a certain group to run that frequency through, so that the rest that come can have the blueprint for it.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. So could you talk more about the twin flames? I mean, I've heard it referred to in different ways, I think by different people. So I'm not sure exactly how you're referring it to. So
Well,
you
the
mind?
majority of humanity is just, they're really bastardizing that subject, just as they do with most spiritual subjects, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's a very highly sacred thing. It's a blessing from heaven when you ascend, and it's a reward for ascension, essentially. And so you got all these kids out there on TikTok, my twin flame this and my twin flame that, and they haven't ascended. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just, it sounds cute, right? To say the words. The real twin flames are, it's so, I almost don't like to talk about it because of all the damage that's been done with the subject in the collective. But I can just say that they're absolutely yoked together, and they are celestially married in the eyes of God, literally. And it isn't as easy as people think it is on Earth. It's very connected to your DNA. It's connected to all the zodiacal signs. It's a story of all stories in the cosmos. And it is also a bit challenging in the human form, because the work that we're doing is, we as twin flames are coming in also to run that frequency into the earth plane and into the grids here, and really to try to help run it through other souls so that their DNA can activate. The work is extensive. It's not some cute little romance thing necessarily. I mean, there's definitely those aspects there, but it's an extraordinary mission that we're on to restore the pre-Atlantean timelines, and to restore the Ankh, which I'm working on a book about that called The Restoration of the Ankh. So I have a couple books I'm trying to work on to get out there that will kind of help illuminate a little, but it's a very difficult subject because, just like I said, everything's sacred. When we try to bring it forth to the masses, it gets bastardized. There are certain things that really are not meant for the masses right now. They're meant for the souls that achieve a certain frequency. There's sacred ordinances that are involved. And although we love everybody and we want to guide everybody in the path, some things are very sacred, and they should be always honored that way, because otherwise the human world takes it just like they did with Christ's teachings, and look at what they've done with Christ's teachings all around the world. It's been bastardized and perverted and exploited and turned into something that it's not. And therefore the voices of the true wayshowers, who God deems as wayshowers, can't be heard, because all the rest is overpowered it. And this is why it's a problem with really anything spiritual.
Right. Yeah. So
It's
how do you tell then if a person is ready for that? for the twin flame to know more about it? How do you tell if they're ready? Does it just happen automatically to the person, or like, say, if you're working with someone, and how can you tell that they're ready for that?
Oh, well, I can tell because I'm guided very, very clearly by source. But I definitely do vet people that I work with, so I know when they're ready for certain subjects and not. And I have levels of some of my work. I do other workshops, mystery school teachings, and other kinds of things that are kind of tiered out. And also one-on-one teachings where I see where they're at and I know how to help them from that point. But again, certain things, just like the twin flames, you can't teach it. You have to experience it. You can teach little things around it, but in the end, you have to experience it. Teach somebody what it's like to give birth to a baby.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, you have to experience it.
You have to experience it. And that's the end of it, is that really the journey of ascension is about people trusting their spiritual journey, trusting where they're at on it, and allowing themselves to be shown whatever they're supposed to be shown at that time. The spiritual world, the spirit world knows who's ready for what. It's the guardians that deem that, not me.
Right, sure.
It's just like Akashic record reading. You can't, you're not going to get access to the whole Akashic records if the guardians don't want you to. And there's reasons, very, very sacred reasons why. That's just the way it works. They love everyone. It's just like, the way I like to explain it is, it's like having mother's beautiful living room with brand new white carpet and white sheer curtains and a brand new beautiful white couch. You're not going to let a bunch of children come in there with mud on their feet.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's just the way the spirit world works. They love everyone, but certain kingdoms are intended for those that have the right frequency.
Mm-hmm. So what about part on your services under your website? I was, looking through some of those. You mentioned alchemical marriages and astral healing. Could you talk a little bit more about either of those?
So alchemical marriages is part of the twin flame journey, and there's lots of ways to heal a soul, to assist them to prepare for that marriage. That marriage is a marriage back with all the parts of your soul. So as we were talking about before, it has to do with soul retrieval, and it has to do with really preparing yourself in masculine and feminine energies to understand what's needed for twin flame union. Because it is such a holy marriage, it cannot be, it's not something that will occur the way that humans think. The way that humans think and operate is very contrary to the way that the twin flame union occurs. And so there's ways to help heal souls around those energies. And also there's polarity between masculines and feminines. So even if you and your twin flame, you're going to have all your life and past life and all kinds of issues around yourself that you need to heal, and they're going to have the same kind of thing with the polarity dynamics. You have to figure out how to heal that so that they can merge. And so there's a lot to be said about that, but there's certain codes that the souls need to get in order for that alchemical marriage to happen. So I assist with that.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that the twin flame, then your twin flame is from a different universe, or it's not necessarily here, right? Not in human form.
Twin flame's human too.
Okay. Well, I didn't know how you were saying. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But not all twin flames have to have both incarnated on Earth. Some of them don't. Some of them don't. And there are galactic stories between the twin flames too that need healing. So then you get into deep stuff. But
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Almost seem impossible for the
Your
different
your
healings
soul
to
just
occur.
shows you when you're ready. Your soul will show you when you're ready, or your soul will lead you to who you need to be with when you're ready to get some help with it.
Right, right. Huh, interesting. So, what about the astral healing? Is that I'm given with astrological signs? With the astrology things, or is that also the deep spiritual healing? Um,
Astral healing is really assisting in light body healing, honestly, because that's your astral bodies connect to your light bodies. So it has to do, a lot of people want the spiritual gifts, don't they want to open their third eye, and they want to have a
right,
kundalini activation, they want to
right.
astral travel, and they want to do all these things, and they want their twin flame, but it's all connected to spiritual work. And so astral healing has to do with helping them to heal the light body itself so that they can access the astral more, so that they can begin to go into those realms of growth.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. You're a, a great source of deep information, and I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. Um, and then, so what's the predominant amount of your work? Is that in Akashic records, or in teaching people, or what would you say you spend your predominant amount of work in?
Well, my guides are asking me to shift that, so I'll just
Okay.
say that generally speaking, I've done a lot of writing, and I've done a lot of just teaching, and I do a lot of stuff free. So if people are looking for guidance, as I write all the time, and I write
Mhm.
articles and teach people things. But I've also been very guided to finish the books, and I do a lot with private sessions, medical mediumship. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of mediumship, connecting people to their passed over loved ones, which also provides a tremendous amount of healing for people, because they they need to hear from one another from the heart, and oftentimes in the human world, people don't know how to speak from the heart to one another, and so it leaves a lot of wounding between relationships. And so I do a lot of mediumship readings to help heal and bridge the heart to heart there that was missing, or broken somewhere along the way. I definitely do a lot of medical mediumship. So people come to me, and I'm able to just scan their whole body, and I can see into them where they have wounds, and where they have sickness, and where they have cancer growing, or I've seen stuff in people's jaws. I've seen cancer in people's stomach. I've seen meshes from hernias causing problems for people. And so I just kind of see it like X-ray vision, and I'm able to help them heal through that, without having to go through these aggressive medical Western medicine kind of processes, which can honestly lead them into a lot more trouble than anything.
Oh, isn't
And
that for sure? Yeah, yeah.
and a lot of times it's a more simple approach generally. And so sometimes it's just a matter of knowing what it is and what's causing it, to heal them quickly before it takes over their body. Um, but I do a lot of one-on-one sessions, and of course I teach courses and workshops, and I'm in the process of kind of transforming a new website. That old website that you've been looking at will
Mhm.
be gone hopefully by next year. I keep saying that, but I'm in the transitionary process there, and so that's the gist of it. It's a lot, making videos and and out there on
It's
all
a
the different
lot.
platforms. So it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. And I thought your angel anatomy workshop sounded very interesting too. Um,
Yeah,
could you
yeah.
talk more about that?
Sure. That was an introductory workshop. I'm going to have other angel anatomy courses that I teach over time. But that one was to try to help people understand the 15-dimensional bodies that they have, multi-dimensional selves, because a lot of people understand the 7 chakras, but they don't go into the deeper parts or the other parts that are beyond. And so it was a basic workshop to teach them about the different chakras, and what energies affect them and how to balance those areas and what they may be so as we went through the workshop, they could talk to me about what each of them were struggling with so that we could balance those chakras with them to help them go through ascension, because a lot of people don't realize that even beyond your 7 chakras, if those other chakras are imbalanced, you also won't be able to get through certain stargates. So
Yeah, interesting. I work quite often in the 5 spiritual chakras. I don't know. They're sometimes numbered, 8 through 12 or something. I do a lot of tunings with those and clearings for that. Okay. Well, interesting. Yeah. So the other thing I saw on your site that I thought was, it's something that I've heard several times, and from what I've heard, it seems like people have differing opinions of what they're talking about or whatever, of the star seed readings. So how do you see the star seeds, or what's that about in your work?
Well, I would say this to anybody that's kind of on the path looking for guidance, is you really do have to be sure that you're getting somebody who is activated, because if they're not, they're most likely channeling demons. They usually are. And even in my work, I have even mediums that come to me, or half of my clients are other healers, and a lot of times they're really infected with entities. And if that's the case and you're getting readings, you have to be careful, because those entities can jump from body to body. But as far as star seeds go and star seed readings go, because I was galactivated, taken off planet, introduced to the Pleiadians, remembered who I was, remembered that I was a star being, I had all of my memories activated and my DNA. And so after that happened, which was in my 30s, I started to get guided to help people with their galactic records, because again, you have your past lives and you have lots of other stuff going on. And so all of those pieces are part of the big puzzle. And sometimes a soul can be struggling with a lot of things on Earth, and actually there's a reason why from the galactic world. And so I do readings like that for them. I am also able to help them retrieve some of their own memories, and I work with other guides from the star world that will come into the readings, and they'll assist us in whatever it is that we're doing. And a lot of times clients can see and feel them while we're there together. So whatever I'm seeing, they're seeing the same thing. And I love when that happens, because it's like you're all feeling it, because when they come in, they're very powerful beings. That's part of it, but it's also, helping them to retrieve some of their Akashic records as well. And their galactic records.
Yeah. Oh, very, very cool. So interesting to me, all the topics. Yeah. So we usually keep the podcast at an hour, and so we're getting close to that. But is there anything you want to tell people, or anything else you'd like to say before we get ready to close? Or
I guess I would just say, follow your soul and fill into your heart. And if you're struggling and you're suffering and you're not feeling good, there's reasons why spiritually that can be healed and can help you to achieve, having happiness on Earth. And I know I can hear already some voices out there. Oh yeah, but the world, they're making it so hard for us. But they are. But that's what makes it so beautiful, is to find beauty in the midst of the madness.
yes,
and to find your power in the midst of the madness, and to find your purpose in the midst of the madness. And everybody has a purpose that's divinely orchestrated for them. So, if you're feeling down, get up. There's ways to help.
Yes, and I like how you said that, and I like to think that to try to do more, or to want to do a lot more than you're meant to be, or what your soul is telling you to be, is being less, right?
It totally is. I thank you for saying that, because I do get that from a lot of clients. They come in and they think they're supposed to be all these things.
Yeah.
And if their soul hasn't put them there, then they're absolutely not. And they don't need to bite that off. There's no need for that. I don't know how to fix my computer. I don't know how to fix my car. I don't know how to sometimes comb my hair, but I know certain things spiritually. You know, I'm not everything, and neither is anybody else. And so I agree. You accept who you are and make peace with it, and just bite off what's yours. That's all you need.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. And your contact information is below, so people can go to your site and follow you on social media and things. And so thank you, everybody, for listening today. I hope it was you found it to be as stimulating and interesting as I did. And thank you again, Ellen, for being with us. And
Thank you,
we'll
ladies.
see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.